Welcome, everybody. I want to grab a seat and get started here. Daryl's going to come up here in a second and chair this. Please be mindful of the church and respectful of the property. They do give us the use of this $10 million property, and they just ask us a couple simple things. Please not smoke on it. Please don't throw any butts, and be respectful of it. Anyway, Darren's going to come up here and Darren, right?
How's everybody doing today? My name is Daryl. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, PA. The purpose of the group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice of the teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, just simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Welcome, Mike.
I'm Sean, alcoholic.
Welcome, Sean.
Dory, alcoholic.
Hey, Dory, welcome.
Hi, Brittany, alcoholic.
Hey, Brittany, welcome. Is there anyone else? And a snow blizzard. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship with anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is or willing to sponsor. Please raise your hands. Thank you for your service. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? No one has any announcements? Okay. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or Ron before or after the meeting. They are available free of charge. I've asked Dave to come up here and read the preamble.
Hello everybody, I'm Dave, I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. And now I've asked Aaron to come up here and read the 12 steps of AA.
My name's Aaron, I'm an alcoholic. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thank you.
The seventh tradition, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. Coffee, cream, donuts, rent, big books and CDs, and Tim's ham sliders. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. All right, now I would like to introduce our speaker, Gina from Steps to Serenity from Levittown. Excuse me, our friend Gina.
Thank you. Thanks. This is so high. Hi, my name is Gina, and I'm an alcoholic. And one thing really gives me anxiety is the whole microphone thing totally gives me anxiety. So bear with me. My sobriety date is November 30th, 2007, and like I didn't come to AA. I guess a willing participant. Like I had to go through a lot of misery and pain just to get here, just like everybody else. I heard a speaker one time say that I was restless, irritable, and discontent when I was a kid, right before I even took my first drink. And like, that made so much sense to me because I was always the kid that was in trouble. My mom used to say to me, if you weren't my child, I wouldn't even want you to be my friend. You know, like I got everything was negative attention. I was in trouble in school all the time. And I could never figure out what was the matter with me, why everybody else was so happy. And I just hated everybody. I hated authority. I just couldn't stand people. And I was really worse when it came to my family. My parents divorced when I guess I must have been 5 years old or whatever. And I remember when my dad left, I asked my mom what kind of woman has her husband leave her. And my mom was like, boy, you're a rough one. Like she was so devastated and so upset. And I was so resentful because my dad always stuck up for me. Like I have an older sister and a younger brother. I was the middle child. So, you know, my sister was always in trouble because she was supposed to be perfect. And my brother was the quiet one. And I was just like the tornado in the household all the time. And then when my dad left, like how sick I was, that I remember being in first grade and I went in school and told them that my mom and dad were divorced finally. And I said, my mom and dad divorced and it's my fault. Well, the teachers called my mom and my mom's like, dude, you make everything about you. Like it has nothing to do with you, you know? But like I had to go in school, so then I got all the attention. They put me in therapy, you know, all that good stuff. And, you know, it was like, again, I had a ride because it was about me, like always about me. And so, you know, going through grade school, I was constantly, I was always in trouble. I was either kicked out of the classroom, I sat in the back of the classroom, I sat next to the teacher's desk, like always. They would tap my desk to redirect me constantly. I always had to talk back, all that good stuff. We used to go to my dad's house on the weekends, and I remember my sister's 2 years older than me, so we would go to my dad's house, which was around the corner from my house. So my sister would have all her friends, and my dad would say, she would say, can I go out? And my dad would say, yeah, you can go out if you take Gina with you. And she'd be like, oh my God. You know, she didn't want to take me, so she would take me anyway. They were all older people, and she just resented me so much because she had to do everything with me. So we used to hang in this movie theater, and I'm originally from Philadelphia, right? So we hung at this movie theater, and it was the Devon movie theater. It was $1 to get in. And it was right on Frankfurt Avenue. So we used to all like bring our liquor in our pants and everything to get it in. And we would drink the whole entire time while we were there. So I drank a fifth of Jack Daniels. And I went home with one shoe on, and I threw up all over my dad's feet. And my sister got in trouble. Well, my sister got probably beat for it. And my dad was like, you're punished for 6 months. And I was like, dude, I'd only see you every other weekend. Like, that's probably not going to happen. The only thing I learned from that night was that my sister gets in more trouble than me, and that me and Jack Daniels just don't get along, and I probably shouldn't drink that anymore. So I didn't remember anything that I did. But the next time I talked to everybody, they, said how funny things were, all that stuff. And I was like, all right, bet I was cool, right? So, that continued. And I remember being in 8th grade thinking that everybody else would try to figure out what they were going to drink on Fridays. And lo and behold, they didn't. I did. I tried to figure out all my chores that I could do for the week so that way I had enough money to be able to go to the Jungle Juice party. And like where I was raised at is like Harbison, like Avenue, and then you can see the cemetery. So we used to shimmy the wall and climb over the fence to the cemetery. So we would say to my mom, we're going to our friend's house, and she'd say, yeah, I better not let me catch you climbing over that cemetery wall. And she would look through the living room windows and watch us. So we had to find different holes to get into in the cemetery. Then we started hanging in playgrounds. And one time we were out there drinking, and all of a sudden there's a car coming through the football field, and we're like, who is this crazy lady? And they're like, dude, she's looking for you guys, it's your mom. And I was like, oh my God. I said to my sister, I'm so embarrassed right now. So we run all the way home. My mom gets home and she's like, where have you been? And we were like, we've been here the whole time. Where have you been? One of them deals. We drove her nuts, and there was a corner, it was Veterans Harzelt, it was down in Tacony, and my parents were like, you are not allowed on this corner. So I had to hang on that corner, right? So I would go to the corner, and my parents would drive by, my neighbors would drive by, and they would say to my mom, we saw Gina on that corner again. So what I did was I got a boyfriend that lived on that corner, right? His house was right there, so I had to get a boyfriend. So therefore I had all the reasons to be there. And, I was about 14 years old. He was probably 19, turning 20. My parents were ready to have a heart attack. And they also knew that if they would have told me no, that I would have found a way to date him anyway, right? So we drank together. He got into the bar. I didn't get into the bar. I only went into the bar to punch him off the stool to steal his money because he didn't meet me where he was supposed to. So they would be like, dude, here comes Tyson. She's back in the bar, because I was a hitter. And he hit. We were really physical with each other. And it was really probably a really abusive relationship. And for me, it was my sense of worth, because he was my first love, my first everything, and I kept thinking if I wasn't with him, then who would I be? And I stayed in that relationship for 4 years. And when I graduated from high school, I left that relationship, but I still hung on that corner. And I hung out with this girl Kelly and this guy Nikki, and so we would go out boosting all day long. So we would go to Radio Shacks and Silos, because that's how old I am. We would have a checklist of that, and we would go to whatever Silos and Radio Shacks, and we would steal laptop computers and camcorders, right? That's what I did. And then I would take the money, we would sell them, and then we would drink and do our thing for the whole entire night, which was fine. We learned how to, we had this little car, it was a Pacer, right? Because nobody else would notice that we were in a Pacer. So we would be in the supermarket shopping center, and he would do drive-bys and teach us to see if we could dive in through the windows in the trunk so we could be prepared when we got chased out of stores. And it was to me, it was so normal, and everybody else was like, dude, what are you doing? And I went to Little Flower High School. I went to a Catholic high school, and I remember being chased out of a store, and I had a laptop stuffed underneath my uniform and one behind me, and I'm trying to run out this door and try to dive into this car, and my mom's like, where have you been? And I'm in a whole different county. I was someplace I shouldn't have been, and anyway, drove my mother crazy. But so I wind up getting arrested. I'm really, really drunk in the back of this car, and I get arrested, but I don't know what I'm getting arrested for because I'm totally passed out, and I have this lady cop that is screaming at me. And she, my girlfriend, her name was Kit Kat, she passed away, but so they have me right arm to right arm with her, and I can't even stand up because I'm so intoxicated. And the cop just keeps pushing me. So I keep falling and she keeps coming with me, and I keep standing up, she falls the whole time. But I have this man, he's screaming at me, telling me that I stole his car. And I was like, dude, I don't even know how to drive. I don't even know what you're talking about. And I woke up in the roundhouse, and I don't know, I went in front of this judge, and I had all these charges, and I'm just looking at him, and he's looking at me. I'm like, what do you have to say? And I'm like, I got nothing. I don't even remember any of this. So my mom had to come get me, and it wound up being New Year's Eve. And my younger brother and his friends got Mad Dog 2020, and they all came to the house, and they all drank with me. And we celebrated New Year's together. Because my mom told me it was probably a good idea that I didn't leave the house. So I said, okay, I'll go with it. So I stayed, and I celebrated New Year's Eve with my brother and them. And then 2 weeks later, I caught another case in Montgomery County, and I knew I was in trouble. Montgomery County wanted to send me upstate for 2 to 5 years, and Philadelphia was not happy with me because I violated them. So I do with any good alcoholic does, and I go to rehab because that's always a solution, right? The completion paper always looks good for everybody, so I thought that's what I do. So I went there, and I'm 18 years old, and I'm in trouble for talking to the boys. I have a counselor who's a nun who I can't stand. She's trying to tell my mom I should go to a recovery house in Reading. I'm like, dude, I'm from Frankfurt and Philadelphia. I don't even know where Reading is. I'm not going to Reading. I don't know anything about it. So I kept saying to my mom, listen, this is just a phase. I can stop whenever I want to. It's going to be fine. Don't listen to her. So my mom says, fine. She lets me come home. I think I lasted like 3 weeks. I went to a couple meetings. I watched these people argue in a meeting, which was totally insane for me. And I was like, these people are crazier than me. I'm out of here. And I remember I had to go to IOP. And I remember everybody was older than me. And I remember saying, what am I supposed to do on a Friday and Saturday night? Like, I'm 18 years old, what do I do? And I'll never forget the counselor's like, well, you could fly a kite. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, are you serious? That's your solution, that I should fly a freaking kite? Like, who does that? So I was like, yeah, I'm not coming back to talk to you anymore. I was done with that. So then I went back to drinking, and, I justified it. I drank on the weekends because I thought that's what, I could do. And lo and behold, it didn't work that way, but I tried to. And I just got more and more trouble. Eventually, I went to my mom's house one time and I was so drunk and on many other things. And I crawled up my back steps and my mom said, you're not welcome in this house no more. You can't. And she shut the door and she locked it. Well, part of me was like, crap, what do I do now? And the other part of me was like, yes, we are so free. We can do whatever we want, right? And then I was like sofa hopping all over the place. I lived with my girlfriend for a little bit and her son and her boyfriends. And then eventually I got my own apartment with my best friend, and it was on Hagerman Street, and it was an apartment building, and it was in the basement. And I would go to work, right? And I would come turn in the corner and I'd hear this noise. And it was because they had nitrous tanks in my living room, and it would sound like my house was just gonna go up like a spaceship all the time. And I was like, dude, the cops are gonna come, like, what are you doing? Like, everybody just partied all day long while I was at work. So as soon as I walked in the door, I just partied with them. I turned 21 years old, and my brother and a bunch of my friends, we had this, they had a keg party for me out back of somebody's house. And we had a great time, it was great, whatever. And I was the girl in the neighborhood that, if you messed with my little brother, he was 3 years younger than me, but if you messed with my brother, I was coming for you, right? All of my boyfriends, my mom used to say, did you stand outside of the prison to bring them home? Because if the worst reputation they had to become mine, and I just was that girl. And I don't even think I liked half of them, I just think it was because it was just something to do, I guess, I don't know. But, so my brother would like hustle for my boyfriends and whatever, and but if you robbed my brother, then me and my friends robbed you at nighttime, right? So my brother would come find me and he would say, what did you do last night? And I'd be like, absolutely nothing. I didn't do anything. And he's like, it's funny because so-and-so's missing his stereo equipment, and he thinks that I did it because I robbed him. And I'm thinking, maybe my sister did it. And I was like, nope, wasn't me. So, and I thought, what are these dudes going to say? Gina, to take my stuff? How embarrassing is that they have me taking their stuff, so they're never going to ask me. But all of them things, my brother had the same, my brother drank and did drugs too. And so 3 months after my 21st birthday, my brother got arrested, and on his way home from being arrested, he hung himself from this disease. And so I was down the shore, and I was totally whacked, and I came home. They brought me home from the shore, but I didn't know why I was coming home from the shore. And my girlfriend lied to me and told me we were going to her sister's house, and we pulled up at back of my house, and I was like, dude, this is so the wrong house. And I walked in the door, and my parents told me that my brother committed suicide, that he hung himself, and I told them that they were wrong. I went back to my apartment, and I wouldn't go back to my mom's house. But I also couldn't get a sober breath because I was so full of guilt, shame, and remorse. And I kept thinking that if I wasn't who I was, and my mom was so angry that she said to me, and I know she said it out of anger, like back in hindsight, because we've talked about it now, but like at that moment when she said, you brought this into our house, things may have been different if you didn't bring this into our home. And for me, that was the fingers pointing to me that this was all my fault. And I was angry at God, I was angry at everybody, and I believed that I should have died and he should have lived, and that I was just worthless. And it totally destroyed me. I left one job to a different job. I worked from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock at night, and it was in warehouse. So I got to drink. I drank all night long until the next morning, and I got somebody to. It was a warehouse full of men, and I could manipulate anybody I want to because I needed a ride. You know what I mean? I drank all the time. I was totally out of control. I lost my apartment. The boyfriend I had at the time, we moved to Florida, you know, for the geographical change. I only found new substances while I was there because, you know, I take me with me wherever I go. The only thing that happened was when I came home from Florida, I came home 4.5 months pregnant with my oldest son. And I didn't tell my mom until I got there because I didn't think she was going to let me live with her. So I was like, I'm just going to come home. She was like, okay. And then I tell her that I'm pregnant. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything. I did really good. And, you know, I thought, because again, right, that moment of abstinence, right, I think that when my mom says, I'll watch your son so you can go out with your friends on a Friday night, I think that I can go out and drink and be normal with my friends, right? And then I can go home and take care of a baby. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, I walk in the door, whacked out of my mind, trying to heat up a bottle because I know he's going to be awake any minute now, right? And that was a Friday, and then it was a Saturday, then it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know what I mean? Like I had to keep doing them days. But I convinced myself, because I went to school, my son went to daycare, that I was still functioning and everything was okay. And I didn't see it. I just did not see it. And you know, I found girls in school that lived around the corner from me. They had their own houses and they drank just like me. So I'm like the gypsy. Me and my kid went to their house. And if they said I drank too much, then I went to somebody else's house. And I went to somebody else's house. And you know, my son went through all these stages with me. And I remember my mom said to me when I got sober, she said, I knew at that point if I would have took him from you that you would have had nothing to wake up for. You would have just kept going till you died. And the poor kid, he went everywhere with me. I had got another boyfriend. He owned a billiard club. His parents bought us a house. I drove a Mercedes. I thought life was amazing. I was absolutely miserable. I was stuck in this, I don't even know if we ever liked each other. We both were just so addicted to many other things and had our own habits that we fed off of each other. And that was an abusive relationship. I got pregnant and I couldn't get a sober breath. Like I couldn't. I think I was like 6.5 months pregnant, and I finally stayed sober for 1 month, and I had my son at 7.5 months, and he was 2 pounds and 4.5 ounces, and I'm sorry, he's 4 pounds 2.5 ounces, and he stayed in the NICU, and he didn't go through withdrawal or any of them things, and like I had to go home to my other son, and I didn't want to get up for any of them. The only thing I did was stay out of DHS's way, right? I hid from them, and I kept thinking, like, how do I get out of this? Like, how do I get out of this life, this moment? And I would have rather died than been a mom to 2 kids and been in this relationship. And I knew it. And I remember going to my clinic and saying to them, I think there's something the matter with me. I think I have postpartum depression. There's something the matter with me. And they kept saying, there's nothing the matter with you. You just need to get sober. And I thought, I can't get sober because I don't even want to be alive. And nobody got it. Nobody understood me. And, you know, my son came home for 1 month. So I have a 4-year-old and I have a 3-month-old. And I have a 3-month-old that I don't want to wake up and feed. And I have a 4-year-old who hides from me, that I physically, mentally, and emotionally abuse on a daily basis. There's no food in my refrigerator for him. And I don't want to get out of bed for anybody. I don't want to feed anybody. I don't want to take care of anybody. And I missed 2 doctor's appointments and for my newborn, and DHS was coming, and I knew they were coming, so I called their grandparents, and I said, I need you to take my children, because I can't take care of them, and I can't have them in foster care. I just need them to be loved by somebody else. So the only thing I ever did good in my addiction was give my children to other people, because I knew that they would die. My oldest son would find like pills and everything, and he would say to me, Mommy, here's your medicine. Like, thank God. It's what I'm telling you, God carried my kids. He knew that if he would say to me, are you going to be nice if you get your medicine? And I'd say, absolutely, get in the car, let's go. Everybody was an uncle, you know, everybody I went to. I went to rehab, and I always had like private insurance, and now all of a sudden I have like county insurance. So now I'm like, gotta go to a county facility. And so I go to Kirkbride. It's like 52nd and Market. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, but it's a lovely place. And so I go to Kirkbride, and I'm the only person there without track marks, just saying, right? I'm the only person without track marks, and I still have meat on my bones, so I got the pick of the litter when it came to any man in that place. So I was like a hot commodity, right? My delusional head said, I got it going on, and I can pick anybody I want to. So I find the love of my life in treatment, because, you know, that's what I do. Because it takes me out of me, because I'm full of resentment. It's everybody else's fault that, you know, I miss the doctor's appointments, but it's my son's father's fault because he's the one that made them. And he gets to be the one that gets to stay home with my son and still be in active addiction. And I'm the one that has to go to treatment, and I hate everybody, right? Because I want to blame everybody except look at my own behaviors and my own addiction. So I go there and I meet this guy, and whatever, I leave treatment, and he leaves treatment, and I go home, I pretend like everything's good, and I go back to my mom's, and I see my kids here and there, and I meet the boy. I sneak out and meet the boy every once in a while, and he introduces me to Kensington Avenue, right? So I remember when I first went out there, I was like, well, I can never stay out here. These people are really bad. Like, these people are crazy. And I wasn't like them. I didn't even do the same things as them. I was very, I guess, overwhelmed when I got there. But I was also really intrigued that they could be anywhere. Like, they slept on lawns, and they went in houses and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, well, there's like no rules down this camp. I like this, you know? And I went home. Everybody was always complaining and yelling at me because I didn't do this and I didn't do that. So it just became easier to escape down that way with him. And I remember family court said to me, you have to go to treatment. And I was like, listen, I'm going to be 30 in about 2 weeks. So can we like wait till after my 30th birthday? And the judge was like, dude, you'll be dead by then. No, you're going today. And I was so mad. I was so resentful. I went to this treatment facility, which was like so far away. And yeah, they were crazy there. I hated it. And I remember people would say, what are you here for? And I'd say, family court sent me. Like, never once did I admit that I was an alcoholic or an addict. Like, I would not admit it. I was like, family court brought me here. So my youngest son's father comes to visit me, and he brings me a little care package. And I have 2 days left, right, in this facility, and I'm completed. So while I'm there, there's this woman, and she's telling her story about how she was homeless, and she lived under the bridge, and she ate out of trash cans, and she did all these things. And I remember sitting in the back of the room with my arms crossed thinking, well, that's not my story, thank God. These people are all here, and I have a choice of whether I want to drink or use, right? And that's what my head told me, right? The total denial stage, justification. And all of a sudden, my son's father comes and visits me, gives me a care package, and then they say to me, well, we got a phone call, because my son's father called, and they're like, we need a urine. And I was like, well, we're in trouble. And so all of a sudden, that woman's story became my story for 4 years. So I went to Kensington Avenue, and I lived out there for 4 years. I left my children. I left my family. My family would come down and look for me every once in a while. My friends came down and looked for me, and I just hid from everybody. I remember one time I was in an abandoned house, and somebody said to me, your dad is down on the avenue. He's at Somerset and Kensington. And I said, yeah. And they said, well, are you going to go down? And I'm like, absolutely not. He's going to tell me to go home. And somebody said, I really wish somebody came and looked for me. And I thought it was such an inconvenience. And I was so annoyed that people came and looked for me. I wanted to be like them and have nobody look for me. And here's my family running through Kensington looking for me, and I was so annoyed. So I finally just told them all, stop looking for me. I don't want to come home. I'm not coming home. This is my life, and this is where I'm going to stay. And so I would get pneumonia every once in a while, you know, and I had to go in and out of hospitals. I got really sick. We were in this abandoned house, and so we didn't know anywhere to sleep. So the boy that I'm with says, so I got us this house. So I'm like, what do you mean? So he's like, I got this house. So him and my youngest son's father like cleaned it and decorated it, and they put like all this furniture in it, and it was an abandoned house that we took care of, so it became my house because he gave it to me, right? So when the cops would say, you know, where do you live? I would give that address, and they're like, no, that's an abandoned house. And I'm like, no, it's my house. They're like, no, it's not. I'm like, but it is mine. The boy he gave it to me. It's my house. We're going to live there happily ever after. That's our house. Like, I'm going to bring my babies there. We're going to live there forever, you know? And I was even crazier because the more I was in that house and people would come in, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing in my house? And they're like, it's not your house. It's an abandoned house. I'm like, but it's mine. I had curtains. Like, I had it all done up. That house was probably cleaner than my bedroom is today. Like, that's how sad that was, right? So I got really sick, and I stayed in this bed for like 5 or 6 days, something like that. And my son's father showed up, you know, one day, and he said, we need to call an ambulance because I couldn't walk anymore and my fever was so high. And every once in a while I'd be in the middle of having a conversation and I would just go unconscious. And he was like, what is going on? And so they call an ambulance, and the ambulance says, well, where is she? So he tells them, and he said, well, we can't go in that house. You're going to have to bring her to the corner. So he carries me and he puts me on a crate, like right at D and Cambria, he puts me on a crate and he's like, here she is. So the ambulance had to scoop me up, and they took me to Episcopal Hospital, and they were not nice to me. They did not like me. I was like such a waste of time for them, but I didn't know what was the matter with me. So they put me like in this little room. It was like probably a room for like sutures, and like they never came back for me. So my son's father and my boyfriend come in, and they're like, dude, her lips are blue, her feet are blue, and her hands are blue. Like, I'm sweating, my fever is so high, and the nurses are just trying to give me IVs and all this other stuff. And I called my mom, and she said to me, stop calling me. Stop. You call all the time, right? And so I hang up the phone. I'm like, she doesn't want to talk to me. Whatever. And all of a sudden, I wake up at Temple University about 2 weeks later, and there's my mom and my family. Like, I did wake up one time in the middle, and I remember seeing my dad and them crying, but I kind of went back out. I had this breathing machine on me, and I don't know, I stayed in the hospital for 4.5 months, and I had to learn how to walk again and feed myself, and I went from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane, and they told me that I might be on oxygen for the rest of my life and that my heart was good, and then they told me that I could never, ever drink again. Well, my head said, I'll show you, you know what I mean? Because you can't tell me that I can't drink again because I'm going to find a way to do it. And they sent me to my dad's house in Bucks County, which I thought was so far away because there was no pavements, and I was like, I'm not staying here. And I would call the AA hotline and like all the other and I would cry to the people in the hotlines. I don't know, he just keeps yelling at me. And like, they were such good troopers, man. They would give me meetings to go to, and they would talk to me and explain to me my dad didn't get it. And you know, my dad would go to meetings, and he would sit outside with me, and he would read a book and wait for me to come out of that meeting. Like, he really, really tried. And I used to have to go to IOP in Philadelphia, so I went to Philly every day. And one day, I decided not to go home, and I went to Kensington Avenue for 3 days. And I walked into Episcopal Hospital, and I said to them, I think I'm having a heart attack. And they were like, you need to take a seat. Like, nobody cared. So I was like, okay. So I take a seat, and they call me, and they do an ultrasound, and they tell me that my heart's damaged from the last time I was sick. And then they tell me that my heart's so swollen that they're going to keep me. I slept for 3 days, and when I woke up, they had my dad there, and the doctor said to me, were you trying to kill yourself? And I looked at them like they had 10 heads, and I was like, who does that? I was like, no, I just need to get one more. I don't know why you don't get it. I don't understand why you don't get it. Mind you, I'm like 90 pounds, right? I'm trying to tell them that they don't get me. So I go back to my dad's, and then I finally came to the conclusion that I'm not staying at my dad's. So I go back out to Kensington Avenue. Mind you, I drop all the way down to 70 pounds. And I don't know, those of you that have Facebook, you ever see them people that are tweaking and rocking and swaying, like all whacked out of their mind? That is me all day long. And I can tell you how cute I am. Like, I think that I am the hottest chick out there. I got pick marks all over me. I'm filthy dirty. I already shaved my head because I sold my hair. Like, I am totally whacked out of my mind. I'm the girl that sings church hymns on the corner, like whacked, right? And I can tell you how cute I was and how tough I was, and I was none of them things. But I stayed out and I stayed awake for 3 weeks. So imagine how cute I was, right? And I can't, like, I'm like tweaked out of my mind. I'm a hot mess, totally whacked. And I'm with a bunch of people, and we're coming down this playground and somebody bangs into me and I fall 20 feet. And there's a abandoned car and a patch of grass and some concrete, and I land with my arm here, and I fall flat on my back, and I knew my wrist just snapped. Well, my son's father's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like this, "Could you just get me?" You know, my wrist is flopped over, and I'm like holding it, and I'm like, "Just pick me up," and I can't catch my breath. And he does, he picks me up, and he says, "We need to call 911." And I'm like, "Nah, we'll do that later. Let's go." Like, you know what I mean? Because I didn't want to stop drinking. My head was like, this is a little bit of an inconvenience, but we can work this out. We can get through this, right? So I can't catch my breath. My back hurts so bad, and my wrist is totally just like hanging there, like it's just not even a part of me anymore. And the poor other kid that's with me is like, "Are you sure we shouldn't call an ambulance?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. We are not ready for that," right? So now I have to walk down the street, and I'm like tiptoeing, crying. Like I was not even fun at that point, right? And so we hung out at these steps, and we, drank and did our stuff and whatever, and we finally pass out. I haven't slept for 3 weeks, so now all of a sudden you sit me still, and I'm like done. And I wake up, we get up the next morning, and I look at the poor kid Brandon next to me, and he looks at me, and I said, "I can't get up. I just can't move. I'm stuck here." And he goes, "Do you think it's time for us to call an ambulance?" And I started crying. And I said, "Yeah." But I cried because I didn't want him to call the ambulance. Like, I didn't want to be done. I didn't want to leave the avenue. Like, I didn't want to leave that life. And I knew that once they took me, they were going to try to convince me that I should not go back anymore. And the ambulance pulled up, and she said, "What time did you fall?" And he goes, "Dude, she fell yesterday." And she was like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "No." And she fell like 5 blocks away, and she walked to here. And they were like, "Are you serious?" So they take me to Temple, and then they have me, in the emergency room, and the doctors are screaming at these EMTs. Well, they want to know why I don't have a neck brace on and all these things, and they're like, "Are you kidding me? She fell yesterday. She already walked. Like, you know what I mean? She doesn't need a neck brace." And so they put the neck brace on me, and there's me. "I'm claustrophobic, and I don't like it. You got to get it off. I don't like it," And they're just so over me. My arm's like stuck in this sling thing up in the air, and the moment comes. And I don't know if any of you have ever been homeless or any of them things, or like maybe went fishing or something and your sneakers got really, really wet, and then all of a sudden you wore them all day, right, in the rain or something, and then you go to take your shoes off and your socks off. But let's just talk about the fact that, mind you, I was out for 3 weeks, and I didn't take my shoes off, and I was living on the streets, and I forewarned them not to take my socks and shoes off. I was like, I wouldn't do that. I'm not sure the last time I did that was. And I swear they hated me. And they took my socks and shoes off, and the whole room went, "Oh." And I went, "Told ya," so they hated me even more. And then the nurses that hated me even more, they had to wash my feet, so that pissed them off even more. Like, I gotta wash this bitch's feet, whatever, sorry. And anyway, I have 2 emergency back surgeries, and I got some rods and some cadaver bones in my spine, and they tell me that the reason why I'm not paralyzed is because I was only 70 pounds. And I'm like, all right, great. But then all of a sudden, I'm in my room, and I still don't say it. Like, I can't say it. I cannot say it. I blame everything else on all these things that are happening to me, and cunning, baffling, and powerful, right? When it says you can't differentiate the true from the false. Like, I could not figure out why I just couldn't drink successfully. Like, what was the matter with me that I just couldn't be like a normal person and go to happy hour, right? I don't even know what that means. But like happy hour, I couldn't do the hour ever. And I couldn't have a glass of wine at dinner. Like, I just couldn't do them things. I just couldn't understand why I couldn't do that. But looking back in hindsight, I remember being in the hospital, and this woman that came in from dietary, she was like Christian. Somebody else was like in another a program, and then somebody else came in, and I was like, something's happening here, right? So all of a sudden, I have that moment, and I think, all right, God, I need you to, this is going to be it. We're doing it. So I go to treatment, and we're good to go. And left to my own devices, they send me out on a doctor's visit, and that's it for me. I get kicked out of that rehab. I go to my first recovery house, and It was at Somerset and Frankfurt, and there was 21 girls in the house, and we slept on the floor, on the 3rd floor. It was horrible, and the toilet was falling through the floor, and I ate oodles and noodles and hot dogs, and we had no sugar, and we put syrup in our coffee. I thought that was so normal because, again, I came from abandoned houses. So I didn't think anything of it. And I stayed in that recovery house, and I wound up going to another one. But I stayed in the recovery house for 9 months, right? And I didn't get a sponsor. I went from 70 pounds to 140 pounds. I was collecting welfare. I was waitressing, and I just was manipulating a lot of people. So, like, I was paper chasing. And I would have told you that I was never, ever going to drink again. But I didn't have a defense, but I didn't know that at the time. So I move out with one of my roommates, and we get our own house a couple blocks away. And we're there for 2 weeks, and she says to me, so I was thinking that I wanted to drink today, and I was like, maybe not. I was like, see, here's the thing. I don't really drink like you. I don't really know when to stop. And the key word she said to me was, don't worry, I got you. That's it for me. All right, she got me. She's going to help me stop this, right? So I decide that I'm going to drink with her, but yet, you know, we're both in the recovery house thing. We're both in the program together, not really doing any work. We have no sponsors. We're absolutely crazy. And she tells me she's going to help me, and she's like, all right, well, we should stop now. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be back, and I'm at an abandoned house, again, locked there for days, right? And I can't leave. I can't leave that abandoned house. And I have a 3-bedroom house with, you know, food and water and all these things. And here I am stuck in this abandoned house. And at that moment, I felt defeated. And I called my mom and said, I'm going to die from this disease. And I need you to tell my children that I love them. And this is it. And I would go to jail for like 30-something days. And like, if you've ever been to jail, if you've ever been arrested, you got all these big plans, right? Where I have wasted my life. I'm going to do all these big things. I'm going to school. I'm doing this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And this is crap, and I'm not living like this. And all of a sudden, they hand you your tokens and 60 cents, and you're like, but bing, I'm going back to right where I came from, right? Like, that's automatically where my head goes, right? So, and that's what I would do every single time. And so at this moment, it's like November, and I'm freezing cold, and all of a sudden one day we were all standing out on the avenue, and I said to all the people that I was with, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna go up to the hospital. Like, I didn't feel good, and I thought I had pneumonia again. And I remember they were like, yeah, we'll see you in a couple of days. And I was like, whatever. And I remember walking up the hill on Lehigh Avenue, and I came underneath the tunnel, and I remember for the first time ever, I said, hi God, it's Gina. And I don't know if you know who I am or you remember me, but I really need you to help me get to this hospital. Don't let anybody call my name, and don't let anybody stop, because I really need to get there. And I did, and I got there. And so they examined me, and the woman says, you're free to go, you can get dressed, and you're free to go home. And I started getting dressed, and I remember looking at that woman, and I said to her, I don't have a home, and I haven't had a home in 4 years. And can you send me upstairs to crisis, because I need you to help me save my life, because I'm dying. And when I did it, I went, like, who said that, right? And but after I said it, it was like, there was like, I don't even know, like this big boulder was lifted off my chest, and I felt so calm, and I thought it's going to be all right, you know? And I sat in a chair for 24 hours till the next day, and they sent me to a detox, and I got comfort meds. Let's just talk about comfort meds. I got comfort meds. I got herbal tea every time I threw up, and I hate herbal tea till this day. But every time I didn't sleep, I would remind myself, I would say to myself, it was my body's way to saying, how you like me now, right? So I called my mom. She moved from Philadelphia to Bucks County. She had my oldest son, who was 8 years old. He was 4 when I left, and now he's 8. And so I called my mom, and I'm like, so I went to detox, and can I come home? I don't have anywhere to go, and I don't have any money. And my mom said, you can come here, and you better follow every direction that everybody gives you, because this is your last chance. And if not, I'm taking your son, and you will never, ever see him again, because he doesn't have a right to, you can destroy your life, but you can't destroy his. And I said, okay. So my mom comes and gets me, and I stay, and every morning she woke me up. Like, I couldn't sleep at nighttime. I didn't even know how to function. Like, my mom would have to remind me to get a shower. Like, I couldn't function. So I have a friend of mine who had 2.5 years sober, and I call him on the phone, and he's in Philadelphia, and I said, I really need your help. So he introduces me to this woman who says to me, do you have a sponsor? And I said, no. And she said, okay, you do now. And I thought, well, that worked really well for me. We're good. I got a sponsor. And so she says to me, call me. So I call her, and she says to me, I'm going to take you through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said to her, oh my God, there's 12? Oh, I don't have time for all that. That's a lot. That's a lot of work. I don't have time for all that. And she said to me, I'm going to make it really simple for you. You're going to get with God, clean house, and help others. And to me, you had to tell me everything like I was 4 because life overwhelmed me on a daily basis. So for me, it became really simple. So I sat down, and everybody has their own experience through the steps, and that's fine. But I just remember I could not admit that I was powerless because to me, it says it in the literature, like nobody wants to admit defeat, right? I was that girl because I was like, I am a survivor of Kensington. I am not, so you know what I mean? I'm not powerless over anything. And so she said, how about you surrender to the fact when you put one of something in you, you can no longer stop. The part that really got me was I could not figure out how my life was unmanageable. And she was like, you sleep in the park, you eat out of trash cans, and you take craps in plastic bags. That is not manageable, Gina. And I was like, all right, good point. Like, it took me a second. I washed my hair in fire hydrants, and I shaved my legs there. Like, I didn't get that part. And I was like, okay, got it. So then I had to, like, be a mom. So that was really overwhelming for me. I didn't know how to do that. So I went to parenting classes so I could figure that out. And, I remember having to do homework, and I was so aggravated that I had to do homework. And I call my friend up, and because he's the only friend I had, and I call him up, and I'm like, I can't do this, and I'm not doing this, and whatever. And he's like, shut up. And I'm like, oh, who are you talking to? And he said, shut up. And he said to me, do you know how many women, how many people? He said, look where you came from. Do you know how many people that will never have the experience to be a mom, to sit down and be aggravated of doing homework? Shut your mouth. And I was like, damn. He said, every time you have them moments that are so overwhelming and you hate the most, they're the moments that you need to thank your higher power for. So I'm like, all right, I got this. So I go to do homework with my 8-year-old who hates to do math and he hates to read. So every time we would do homework, I would be like, I will be right back. And he was like, where are you going? I said, I am going to pray. I'll be back. So I would leave and I would come back and I'd be like, all right, we're good to go. And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, I'll be like, I'll be right back, and be like, you going to pray? And I'm like, absolutely, I'll be back. So like homework lasted long, and my mom would just shake her head, and she thought, you have to do this. And I would look at her thinking, can you, come on, like, come save me. And she was like, no, I'm not doing it, So it, that was overwhelming. That was I remember my first day that he went to, it was a new school for him, so I was going to take him to school, right? I'm like, I'm taking him to school. I'm going to be that mom because I never get to do that. So he gets to school, and I'm supposed to pick him back up. And the school's right next to my house, like around a fence, right? So my mom, I'm on the computer trying to figure out jobs and do all these things, and I realized the time, and I'm like, holy crap, I forgot to pick the kid up, right? So I go running up the block, and I turn the corner, and he's like, it's all right, Mom. I had friends to walk home with. We're good. And I thought, oh my God, I suck. And I was so upset, and I felt so bad. And he's like, Mom, the school is right next door. It's not like it's far. It's okay. And my mom's like, did you pick up John from school today? And I was like, oh yeah, a little bit of a problem. You know what I mean? Like I forgot him because I didn't really know how to measure my days yet. So I worked on that. And thank God he was 8 and not like 5. And it was next door. But so I just learned how to do different things. And I remember sitting down and reading the doctor's opinion. And like when I read it, it made sense. Like the phenomenon of craving, I was like, holy crap, I get it. This is about me. This is what happens to me. I totally understood that. I could never figure out why other people could drink and have one and I couldn't. And then all of a sudden it tells me why I can't. I'm like, I get this. And then my favorite part was like more about alcoholism when it talked about the guy with no legs, like they're going to grow back again. And I was like, that is my head, and I think that it would work for me. But the way it sounded, it made sense. And then they talked about the jaywalker, which is like my whole story, like the idiot that just keeps going out and bad things happen, bad things happen, bad things happen. I'm like, it's going to be different this time, And so that's where I was sold at, right? That worked for me. And, like I had to go through all these different things. I couldn't figure out the 3rd step prayer. I kind of looked at it as a footprints prayer. I had a picture of my higher power carrying me on a daily basis, and he was standing next to me. So I would actually be on the L back and forth, and I would have a conversation with my higher power. And I blended in because I was in Philadelphia and nobody cared that I talked to myself on the L, so it kind of worked. But that's how I had to do it, because somebody said to me, could you just imagine, I said, I don't understand this will thing and all this other stuff. I don't understand that. I'm a visual learner. I can't get this. This doesn't make any sense. And they said, close your eyes. Pick a higher power, imagine what they would look like, all the qualities you would want that higher power to have. And if they were standing in front, if that was standing in front of you, and you had to make a decision between selfish and unselfish, comfortable and uncomfortable, selfish and comfortable is is yours, and uncomfortable and unselfish is your higher powers. If you, just like me and you were talking, if you said, should I do A or B? All of a sudden, what would your higher power want you to do? So that's what I did all day long. Like, I don't know, what are we going to do now? Like, you know what I mean? And then I'd be like, all right, I got it. We're going to do this. And I'd talk to myself, and people thought I was nuts, and I just knew that my higher power was with me all the time. I would have to walk into my meetings by myself because I was so uncomfortable that I would stand at the door and say, oh, Shug, you're going to have to carry me through this one. And I'd walk in the door because, I'm afraid that everybody's going to look at me and talk about me. My sponsor said to me, honey, you are 70 pounds rocking and swaying like a whack job on the avenue. And now all of a sudden you come to AA and you think people are talking about you? They've been talking about you forever. You just notice it now. And I was like, all right, good point. So, I was like, okay, I get that part. But I was the girl that wouldn't go to the bathroom. I wouldn't get coffee. I wouldn't do any of them things. I was like, people are going to stare at me. Oh my God, they're going to talk to me, whatever. And I remember hearing a speaker, and people would be like, you need to share, you need to share, you need to share. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't share. And I remember in my head doing a 1, 2, 3 a minute, I don't care. And I remember I'd be like 1, 2, 3, I'd raise my hands. And then all of a sudden they would call me and I'd be like, yeah, my name's Gina, I'm an alcoholic and I don't really know what I'm doing, but thanks for letting me share. Like that was it, I was good. You know what I mean? Like I said it, I spewed it, and I got used to it. And my sponsor was like, that's all you had to do. And then I learned that I was always sick as my secrets. I needed to expose my head all the time. But then I started like being a non-filter exposer, and my sponsor was like, we need to tone it down like 4 notches for you, because I thought that I had to vomit everything in a meeting. And she was like, not everything is for everyone. Let's just focus on that. And I was like, oh, because by then I didn't care what anybody thought of me. I just knew that I was sick and that you had something that I wanted. And you talked about things and I needed to get better. And like, as I sat and listened, I started meeting a lot of women. Them women taught me how to be a mom. My youngest son didn't meet me till he was 4 years old. I went through 2 years of supervised visits for him. And I'll tell you, this is how the women showed up for me in AA, right? My son tells me his dad's has a girlfriend. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then he says, my dad's getting married. I'm thinking, his dad's in active addiction, and so is this chick. Good luck with that. And I leave it. I go back for my next visit. Now, mind you, I only get 1 hour a week. He just met me. I have about 6 months sober, and like I'm still sick and insane, right? And he says to me, thanks for coming. I have a new mommy. My daddy got married. I have a new mommy. Thanks for coming. It was nice meeting you. You can go home now. And I'm like, you could go tell her to get your own mommy. And he was like, what? He's 4. Like, this lady's crazy. So I go home and I call my sponsor, and I hate everybody, and I'm blowing up their houses. Like, I'm going back to Kensington. I'm getting my friends. We're blowing things up. We're taking my kids. Like, I'm doing all this gangster stuff. I'm not doing really anything. My head tells me I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And my sponsor was like, you're going to pray. And she hangs up on me. You're going to pray. I keep calling her. And my sister, the non-alcoholic, says, I can't believe she keeps hanging up on you. So then she fuels my crap more. And I'm like ready to freak out. And all of a sudden I stop, and my sponsor sends me a text and says, read Freedom from Bondage. And I'm like, oh. So I read it, and it tells me I have to pray. So I pray for them, pray for them for 2 weeks and whatever. And then all of a sudden I go back and I'm seeing my son, and he says to me, so you know my other mommy? And he does that look, like what? Like waiting for my explosion to happen. And I say to everybody, I clenched my ass cheeks and I curled my toes and I smiled, and I said to him, that's because you're so special that you have 2 mommies. No, mind you, I went home and cried, but I handled it a lot better, right? Because the women in AA kept telling me to like keep showing up and keep doing what you need to do. I had open heart surgery when I had 2 years sober, and like AA was in my room all day long. Like they just helped me get through my surgery. They helped me get through my recovery. I have lost people, about like all these different things, all these different experiences that I've had in Alcoholics Anonymous, and when they say it's a life beyond your wildest dreams, I always think like I just celebrated 10 years, right? And like I woke up on the 29th, I was at work and I was telling one of my coworkers, and I start crying. And I said, because 10 years ago on this day, I was still standing on that avenue wishing that I wasn't on that avenue. You know what I mean? And I never thought that I would leave there. I never thought that I would make it here. I never thought that my life would be where it is today, and by God's grace it is. I always say to people when they're restless, irritable, discontent, they're like, I'm missing something in AA and I don't know what it is. I'm like, go help a newcomer. I'm not taking you through your steps for the 50 millionth time. You don't get to sit in AA and just keep doing steps. Go help somebody. And my girls know it. So I get new girls and they'll say, so I was thinking that we could go through my steps again. I'm like, how much time do you have? Like 2 years. I'm like, yeah, no, go find a sponsee. They're like, well, no, go find a sponsee. Go find somebody to help, and that's how you get through your steps. That's how you learn about you. And like, that's the most amazing thing that I ever got to do, was to sit down with another woman and I take her through the book, and you teach them, like, and you apply them to your life. When people are like, I've done my 12 steps, I'm like, really? Because you're still alive and I don't really know when you just did them. You know what I mean? Like, I have to live them every single day of my life. I apply the principles to my life. I'm absolutely crazy all the time. I make really big mistakes. I do dumb things. I have to make amends on a daily basis. The only thing I did learn is that there are some people that I will never tell off because I never want to make an amends to them. So that's when I clench my ice cheeks, curl my toes, and just say, have a great day. Or I visually throw punch them. Either one, it goes different ways. But some people, I just choose to leave them where they are, and that's fine. But like, I have an 18-year-old now and a 14-year-old. I have an amazing family. I have a fiance. Like, my life is beyond my wildest dreams. And everything just flows exactly how it's supposed to be. And that's all from Alcoholics Anonymous. So my name is Gina, and I'm an alcoholic, and thanks for letting me share.
Let's thank Gina one more time for coming out on a snow blizzard and sharing. Thank you very much for stepping up to the plate. Our speakers come here at their own time and expense. We like to form a line when they're done informally, like to thank them with our personal readings and thank yous for coming out and sharing with us. Next week we have John M., okay, out of Quincy, Massachusetts, from the 164 Club. We have the meeting after the meeting. We got a nice way of closing. If you care to join us, thanks for coming out. Plenty of coffee back there.